Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. And this is Florence tea from Harney and Sons, which is like black tea with chocolate. Which, as someone who really shouldn't be drinking hot chocolate, it just does not agree with me. It's very sad because I love it. But this is a good substitute, but it's not something I want all the time. So it's good that I got this tiny little packet from Harney and Sons. So just enough to enjoy occasionally, but not enough to get tired of. I thought I'd mention another packet that I got recently, a sampler from Simpson and Vale. They do different lines of teas. The author, the literary line that they do, I like a lot. Although Mary Shelley is one of the ones I wanted to get because I just thought that'd be kind of fun when I finally start Frankenstein. That would be fun to drink alongside that. But a lot of the reviews say it tastes medicinal, and I do not want teas that taste medicinal. Because if I want medicine, I could just get a bottle of cough syrup, Not that you should, drink cough syrup for fun, kids. But yeah, but this one is Rocky Mountains National Park tea. I thought I'd just mention it because I tried it, and I don't think I want to drink any more of it. It also kind of reminded me of a little bit of medicine. It has black tea, raspberry flavor, and raspberry leaf and pieces, all kinds of raspberry, which is fine, and then sage leaf, which to me is more like a savory kind of flavoring you'd cook with, maybe. Maybe other people would like it in a tea, but to me it just no thanks. So I could do without that one, sadly. So that's what sometimes it is good to get these sampler teas, because you may end up finding a favorite, or you may end up finding one like Florence, which is, yeah, it's good, okay. And then you may find one that you just really don't care for, and you're so glad you didn't invest in a massive container. So that's just a little note about teas. I thought I'd do a Friday Reads. I'm recording this on a Thursday, but by the time I put it out, it might be either late Thursday or early. It could be Friday somewhere, on this earth. I just thought I'd talk about the books that I'm currently reading and planning to read in the coming week, I guess. And there's a lot of them because I always do that to myself. But I will start with, let's see, this one. And this is a cozy mystery because I need some cozy mystery in my life. This is a Tea by the Sea mystery. I think it's the first one, Tea and Treachery by Vicky Delaney, who you might have heard of on this channel on my Tea and Mystery series. She writes the Sherlock Holmes bookshop mysteries, and I have another one coming to me. I have a bunch of books waiting for me at the library because I mostly put cozies on hold. I just suddenly got into this frenzy of I must get all the cozies, and because they're just, I would love to be able to buy all of them new, but this one in itself was like close to $27 if I would have bought it instead of checking in a library. I mean, I just don't have the budget for that, so what can I say? But, at least the library bought them. Something, right? I do try to encourage library borrowing when possible. These series are just, they add up, but I do enjoy cozy. I feel like right now I have a variety of things that I'm reading right now, but I always need to have some comfort reads. Even if they are murder mysteries, they could just feel kind of cozy, and this can't get any cozier than someone who has a tea room. So this also takes place in Cape Cod, possibly another part of Cape Cod. I don't know the geography very well. Lily Roberts, I think, is the main character. I always forget names, especially when it's first person. Sometimes you don't hear the name very often. But she is, she runs a tea room, and she also makes breakfast for the bed and breakfast right there on the property, which is owned by her grandmother, who is an outspoken woman. I've known some outspoken grandmothers before, but anyway, she's from England because there's always got to be some English characters in here. Well, the grandmother's from England. And, I guess that kind of helps with the whole tea thing. I don't know. And they have a lovely spot with this lovely area. Look at this beautiful view. I suppose it's supposed to be their view. And someone next door is selling an old dilapidated property, and there are developers, especially one developer who has his eye on the property so that he can rezone and make a whole resort golf thing, whatever, and that would kind of be disruptive to the B&B. So her grandmother is very angry about that and very vocal about that. So that becomes a problem when the developer turns up dead. Oh no, what's going to happen? So that's basically where I'm at right now. I'm at the beginning of that. I'm assuming our main character, Lily Roberts, is going to probably do some amateur sleuthing of her own, because that's usually what happens. So we'll see. And I'm looking forward to that. It's just, I've been reading it slowly, cozily. That's how I am right now. As you know. But on the opposite end of cozy, this is what I'm reading as a group read, which was started by Kate Howe. And I'm glad, because I really needed a push to read Russian literature. And it's the kind of, there are certain kinds of books that I want to read, but I think that when I'm on a schedule with other people, it helps me to read it. And it is like usually 1 or 2 chapters a day. And you could check in together and, you know, talk about what you've just read without giving away spoilers for if you've read ahead. I think that's good. So yes, Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. And finally I'm reading a Dostoevsky, and I've made, you know, good progress for the week, and not a cheerful book, a lot of kind of poverty and distress, and people getting into all kinds of difficulties, and obviously crime. And I've already reached the crime part. I'm not sure if I reached the punishment part yet. So I like the writing so far. The translator is Constance Garnett, who is kind of well known. She was a Victorian era-ish woman who just translated a lot of Russian literature into English, which in a way works for me, because if it's around the same time period-ish that the books were originally written, it does kind of feel like you're reading the language of the time, even though you're reading it in English, if that makes any sense. When possible, I like to do that, especially because I can understand Victorian writing. It's not like super Victorian, but you know what I mean. There are certain choices of words in the translation that I thought were a little like, oh, didn't expect that word. But otherwise it's good. And it kind of, I'm not in this massive quest to learn everything there is to learn about Russia. I'm really not. I happen to have bought a lot of Russian history books recently, mostly Romanov type books. And I have no problem with that. I don't see myself as someone who's ever going to get completely immersed in Russian culture and literature and food at all. But I don't mind knowing a little bit more than I do. And especially when it comes to literature. Just kind of going along with that, I have this library book that I've had out for a while. I think I showed it to you guys at one point, and I'm finally getting back into reading it because I really like it, actually. I like train travel, and this thing's moving. Hold on. Goodness, so unsteady. I like train travel. I mentioned this last time I showed you this book, if you've seen the previous video. I'm the kind of person who would love to spend more time traveling on trains. I'm not this year. Well, maybe later this year, but still, not yet. But I mean, in general, but I don't have the time, resources to do so. So when I can read about it, that's great. And so the writer, Manisha Rajesh, I think she lives in London, but she and her, husband, yes, her husband, travel all over the world on trains. And I'm at the point now where they're heading toward Russia. So it kind of corresponds a little bit. And so I'm, kind of like a slight pairing there. It's good because I do need a little bit of nonfiction to complement my reading. I know it's not going to stay in Russia. It's going to go all over the world. But at least I'm at one spot here where I'm going to get a little bit of knowledge about that. And I love travel memoirs of any kind. I really do. Well, some I don't, but in general. Okay, switching a little bit to a classic, but not the same kind of classic as Crime and Punishment, I don't think. And that is Anthony Trollope's Framley Parsonage. I did start this, and I'm very happy to have started it because I am really wanting to read a lot of Trollope this year, and off to a good start. I have a feeling that Framley Parsonage is not going to be my favorite of the Barsetshire series, but I'm not enjoying it. I just feel like it's, it's good, but not great. So, but I'm enjoying the story. I'm glad I'm reading in this order because the characters from early on, different books are coming back, and it's good to know what they're up to without having read this and who is this person and how are we supposed to know this person, you know. So it is really recommendable in my opinion to read these in order when possible. And so this is, I think, the fourth one. And it's about Family Parsonage is about a man who basically grows up with a guy who becomes a lord, and he, so they're the same age and they get educated together, whatever. And he finds himself at the parsonage on the gift, as the gift of the dowager of the lord, or whatever you call it. It's always nice to have a dowager. I don't picture her as Maggie Smith, but still. So he has this lovely kind of nice living, nice family, nice situation. But of course, as always happens in these kind of things, he falls in with a slightly ambitious crowd that could put him in some financial difficulties. And we'll see what happens. We'll see if he can sort that out. That's where I'm at so far. That's basically, I've not really given away much about the story, and but so far so good. A lot of this is another one of those books that you kind of need a little bit of footnoting to understand a lot of the references, because I understand a little bit about Victorian times, politics, stuff like that, but you need a little explanation. And also he quotes from poetry a lot. He quotes a lot from Byron, so I have like a somewhat knowledge, but I wouldn't be able to say, oh yeah, I know that's where that's from off the top of my head. I do wish kind of that My Crime and Punishment doesn't have footnotes, which makes it less distracting, but I also kind of wish that I could. I just end up Googling things, which has helped me so far. When I say footnotes, it's not actually footnotes in the bottom of the page, it's actually in the back, which is fine, because it's also kind of like you don't need to look things up if you don't feel like it. I don't know. I change my opinion on that so often. Another book that I picked up this week, it was not on any of my TBRs. I just suddenly wanted to read it. I was looking at my shelves and I saw it and I was like, I bought this like last year used. It was an old library copy, I think. Yeah, it was like Cincinnati or something. I don't know how it ended up. I guess it's a Thrift Books book. And it's written by two friends who are like friends and both writers, so they kind of have their own literary friendship. So there's a secret sisterhood, the literary friendships of Jane Austen, Charlotte Bronte, George Eliot, and Virginia Woolf, which happen to be 4 people I'd like to read this year, if possible. Don't know which one I'd read of George Eliot's. I read quite a lot of her, but there are still some that I'm missing, so we'll see. And Virginia Woolf, I have a number of things of hers I'd like to read, but I have The Common Reader, or A Common Reader, which is basically essays about literature, which sounds really great. I got it recently, and it happened to have been mentioned in 84 Charing Cross Road, which I don't remember it having been mentioned there, but it was. And I read 84 Charing Cross Road on New Year's Day with a lot of other people, and loved it as always, and it reminded me of my very long-term project. It's not a strict project as in I must do it by this time. I did work on it a little more like over a decade ago, and now I'm like, maybe I can return to that every once in a while, which is that any books or literature mentioned in 84 Charing Cross Road or any other of Helene Hamp's writings, I would like to possibly read. And if I try to read one and I don't really like it, I don't have to continue, because I don't need to be that exact. I don't have to read everything she's ever mentioned, but because I specifically remember taking out of the library, what's his name? Cardinal Newman's Idea of a University or something, and it bored me. So I don't need to read everything, but I also read Leigh Hunt's essays, which I liked pretty much. So, and of course she mostly reads nonfiction, but she does sometimes get into the occasional novel. She happens to like Jane Austen, so that helps here too, because I'm definitely going to read Jane Austen this year. There's no doubt about that. I'm going to finish, hopefully, Charlotte Bronte's novels this year if I read The Professor soon. So that's good. I mean, that's not the only reason I'm reading this particular book. I just like the idea of it. It talks about how there are some famous literary friendships of men, but let's go into women, and maybe women that aren't always as well known when reading about these particular women. So that's going to be great. It was a woman who's kind of a servant of Jane Austen's richer family, I guess a governess or something. And she also did some writing. I knew about her, but I wouldn't mind knowing more. Charlotte Bronte had a friend that I haven't heard that much about yet. George Eliot wrote to Harriet Beecher Stowe. And they never met in person, but sometimes, even being able to write letters together to each other, that's nice. And then Virginia Woolf and I think Catherine Mansfield, who I don't think I know that much about. Unless I'm wrong. Maybe I did read a book of hers and just have forgotten, because it can happen. So I think this is so far pretty good. I only just started it, but it has a couple of blurbs in the back. I just noticed Samantha Ellis is in the back, who I just recently read a book by, who I have mixed thoughts about, but that's okay. I'm trying to remember if I ever read her book, How to Be a Heroine, or What I've Learned from Reading Too Much. That sounds very familiar now. I don't know if it's just because I've heard that mentioned before, or if I read it before. So many books. Okay, so that is all that that's, I think, enough, really, to be reading this week. But I do have possible hopes and dreams of going back to, I could pick it up, The Count of Monte Cristo. Because I said I was going to start this up again in January, and we're a week into January, and where have I been? And as far as mysteries are concerned, yes, I have plenty coming from the library that I'm going to pick up soon. They're mostly cozies, and I really would like to do Maisie Dobbs by Jacqueline Winspear. I'd like to start that soon. It just seems, I just have been trying to get to it for over a year, and I think it's time. So I think that's enough. The only other thing I can think is that, it's a long story, I'm not going to go into it, but I had a friend get in touch with me, and for some event coming up, not this month, but eventually, she kind of wanted me to contribute a poem. And that sounds nice when it's a time period where I've been writing a lot of poetry, but it's been a couple of years, I think, since I actively wrote at all. Like, I'm beyond journaling and the occasional blog post, which I've barely done. Didn't do it all the past year either, really. Well, I didn't publish. I wrote some drafts, but didn't publish. So, I don't know if I'm up to it. I said I make no promises, but I thought maybe I should try reading different poems, not one particular poet. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I should concentrate on one. But maybe just, I have a bunch up here somewhere of poetry, bunch of poems. Oh yeah, right here. I can't do it. Hi. I have a big collection of poetry. Mostly classic poetry, but some slightly newer things. And that can probably, if I dip into that here and there in the next couple of weeks, maybe it'll get my mind in gear. I don't know. Maybe I should just not bother, but I would like to, if I could find the time and effort to do a little practice there, that would be very nice. For me, even, because I do feel like I've been lacking an outlet. I don't know. We'll see. So that's it for now. Let me know what you've been reading lately, if you care to share. If you like talking about mysteries, classic novels of various countries, train travel, I don't know. Please subscribe. And that's it for now. Hope you've had a decent week. I know a lot of ups and downs this week. But for now, this is Catherine taking tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and book-filled day.